Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our first Q&A session on this channel. I'm Travis. Today I'm going to be joined by Jordan.
Hello, everyone.
And we received quite a few questions from our community today. So if we don't answer your question, don't worry. There's going to be several more episodes in this Q&A session coming up on this channel, so stay tuned for more of those. And with that being said, let's just go ahead and get started and jump on in with the questions today. So our first question today is, what use cases or challenges are you trying to solve, and what is the next goal of Landshare?
So the main use case and the main issue that we're trying to solve is real estate on the blockchain. And what that means is making real estate that is more accessible, more streamlined, has a lower barrier to entry, and is more liquid than traditional investments. So whereas people think that you need a lot of money to invest in real estate, with Landshare you can get into the market for as little as $50. This creates a much broader ecosystem of potential real estate investors. People who may have never thought about investing before now have the opportunity to do so. And the blockchain technology and the process of real estate tokenization allows real estate to become a much more liquid asset class than it has been traditionally. So rather than buying or selling an entire asset at a time, you can buy and sell shares and fractions of multiple assets and collect rental income from each of them. So this allows virtually anyone to build a real estate portfolio directly on the blockchain. And that's kind of our main goal and our main vision, is to give everyone access to this asset class, which has proven for decades to be one of the safest and most reliable investments you can make. As far as future use cases and future goals that we're trying to achieve, we want to take the real estate side and combine it with a lot of DeFi features. So if you're familiar with DeFi, you've probably seen loan protocols, NFTs, auto compounding, things like that. We're trying to bring those kind of things into the real estate space. So for example, with our loan feature, if you have asset tokens, you can borrow stable coins against the value of those tokens. So this means that you have access to some liquid capital without the need to sell your real estate investment. Auto compounding allows you to automatically compound the rental income that your token generates back into more tokens. So you're increasing your exposure to real estate assets over time, you're increasing your holdings over time, and it's a totally automated process. And finally, with the NFTs, we wanted to really create something that was very engaging and allowed our real estate investors to have some extra yields. So the NFT ecosystem in Landshare is a play to earn system where you can upgrade your NFT and you can buy and sell NFTs on the marketplace. And these NFTs will increase the yields from your asset tokens. So as you upgrade your real estate in the virtual world, your real world investment will return Landshare token yields as well as the rental income that you normally receive. So overall, I think our future goal is to really bring DeFi and real estate together and bring those extra utilities into the real estate space.
Yeah, well said, well said. And so our next question kind of ties into what are the next goals of Landshare? And the question is, do you have any plans to attract non-crypto investors to the Landshare project?
Yeah, so obviously at its core, it's Landshare is a crypto project, and our current base of investors is people who are familiar with crypto. But we know that there's a lot of people that would like to get involved in fractional real estate investment that may not have the same kind of technical savvy. So we are working right now to try to bring a more streamlined process. Rather than having to pay with crypto, for example, we could offer the ability to buy asset tokens with debit cards or credit cards. We could streamline the process of holding the token so that basically we hold the token for you and you don't have to worry about wallet management or anything like that. And that would allow pretty much anyone that wants to get involved in real estate investment to do so through Landshare without the need to have that extra level of crypto savvy.
Right, and I mean, there's certainly a demand for real estate investment outside of the blockchain. I mean, we see it time and time again with REITs. There's a ton of demand and investments that go into those. And that kind of brings us to our next question here. The features offered by Landshare reminds me a bit of REITs. What is the main difference between Landshare and REITs, and what makes Landshare unique or stand out?
So an REIT is a little bit different than Landshare in the sense that when you purchase a share of an REIT, you're buying a managed fund. So behind the scenes, a third party that manages the fund is buying and selling real estate on your behalf. So to a certain extent, you rely on their ability to manage the properties and to manage the sale and purchase of new properties. With Landshare, it's a much more direct process. So you're investing into a single asset, and you have control over whether we sell that asset or keep it. That kind of stuff is up to the token holders. So it's a much more democratic process. It's a much more direct process. You're investing directly into an asset. And most REITs are going to pay out quarterly dividends, whereas with Landshare, we're paying out the rental income that we receive each month as the property manager back to the token holders. So you're getting more frequent payouts, there's less red tape, and there's a lot less paperwork involved. And it's much easier to sell your asset tokens because it exists on the blockchain, so it can be transferred in a matter of seconds. So I think there are definitely differences, pros and cons, but overall, I think the blockchain model is something that we're going to see more of in the future when it comes to fractional real estate investment.
Yeah, and something that I wanted to kind of expand upon there on your answers, you were talking about that red tape a little bit. And with REITs, we see a lot of middlemen and kind of people sticking their hands in the pot to try and, skim off a little bit money here and there, which ultimately leads to, a less cash on cash returns or return on investment for people that invest in REITs. Whereas ours is a lot more streamlined, which means we don't need those middlemen involved. So the cash on cash returns is going to be significantly higher relative to an REIT, for example. And that
Right. Yeah, we don't take a management fee with Landshare. We simply deduct, the cost of maintenance, property taxes, and then we pass all the net income back to the investors. So you're getting all of it.
Right, right. And so our next question is also kind of relating to our tokenized assets, and that is any idea what geographic regions the rental properties could be located in? Here in Vancouver, for example, real estate is highly competitive and pricey, so the market is quite lucrative, but is possibly volatile.
Yeah, so we're focused right now on U.S. real estate because that's where we're based and that's the market that we're familiar with. In the future, if we can strike some partnerships with people outside of the United States that want to offer their assets on the Landshare platform, that's certainly something that we can do. Right now, though, we're focused on the United States, and specifically, we're focused on cash flow properties. And what that means is that we're looking for the highest ratio of rental income when compared to the property value. A lot of people, when they think about real estate investment, they think about very risky, expensive properties. But as the value of a property goes up, so does the risk factor. It can be more difficult to occupy those properties and find tenants. If you're sticking more into a cash flow property, single family homes, duplexes, those tend to have very high rates of occupancy. You're not going to see extended vacancies, and the management cost is much lower. The property taxes are lower. So that's kind of our focus, especially considering that our minimum investment is only $50. It makes a lot more sense to invest in these properties that are safer and more reliable, but still offer comparable returns.
Right, and like you said, sometimes those high market value properties don't yield the same level of cash on cash returns. And that is something we actually wrote about a little bit in a Medium article a few months back that we'll make sure to go ahead and link in the description below so everybody can check that out. All right, and to step away a little bit from our tokenized asset feature, our next question is, will you join other blockchain networks, for example, Solana, Avalanche, Ethereum, or others?
Yeah, that's something that we're looking at right now. And there are a lot of advantages to going cross-chain. Not only do you expose your project to new investors, but it can also be an avenue towards exchange listings. We see that a lot of major exchanges are opening their own chains, kind of like BSC did a couple years ago. And so what we found is that listing your project on these other chains can be a great way to get your foot in the door for an exchange listing. On top of that, it creates more liquidity in different markets. So it's definitely something we're looking at. With Landshare, it's a little bit different because we have the tokenized assets, and those are security tokens, and it's difficult to take those cross-chain because there's a lot of legal stuff that goes on. Basically, the tokens have to be in a certain place at a certain chain. But the Landshare token, on the other hand, being the utility token of the platform, can certainly go cross-chain to as many different chains as we'd like, and we are actively working on that right now.
Yeah, and so with going to other chains, that's obviously going to involve more smart contracts being deployed, among other things. And so our next question is, what are the risk management policies that your project uses to safeguard the investments and yields granted by its platform?
So with our tokenized assets and the asset tokens, there's actually a lot more security than you would normally find with a crypto investment. Because the way that asset tokens work is the token is owned not just by the wallet address, but also by the person that owns the wallet address. So for example, if your wallet was hacked and your tokens were stolen, we have the ability to reissue those tokens to a new wallet that you have control over. So that's one big advantage of this kind of investment is it's virtually a hack proof. I can't say 100% because you never know what kind of things can happen out there, but your identity is associated with your investment, and that adds an extra layer of security that you don't see with most cryptocurrencies. As far as the Landshare token goes, that's more of a traditional currency, and so with that, we have a number of things that we do in order to mitigate risk, and one of those is just by limiting the amount of tokens and limiting the power that the administrative wallets have. So, for example, minting rights are not available to any wallet address. The only minting that goes on is through the BUSD vault. Admins cannot mint tokens, so the only way to create new Landshare tokens is by staking BUSD in that contract. So if an administrative wallet were to get hacked, for example, they would have very limited ability to do any damage. On top of that, we make sure that all of our staking contracts and farms have a limited number of tokens in them at any given time, so that if anything were to happen there, the damage would be greatly mitigated. Finally, all of our administrative processes go through a multi-sig wallet, and what that means is that any transaction has to be signed off by multiple different wallets. So if one admin wallet were hacked, it wouldn't have any power. They would have to hack multiple different admin wallets that exist on their own independent systems. So it makes it much more difficult to do any kind of attack on the Landshare ecosystem based on the way we have it set up.
Yeah, well said. I think that kind of eases a lot of people who have been involved in other projects that have had some security risks. Just to add one more point of emphasis is that a lot of projects go through audits from less reputable, you could say, audit companies, some of these being Surtech or other kind of independent audit companies, and they have had a reputation previously known for missing some quite obvious exploits that later get involved in the project that costs a lot of users significant amount of their staking. whereas the Landshare team decided to not go with one of these cheaper, less reputable audit companies and instead went with Solidified, which has a long-standing and well-trusted respect among the blockchain development community. And so when we move on to our next question here, it is, can we use the entire Landshare concept in the metaverse? Landshare can have similar properties on Metaverse and rent it to customers like they have with the real estate. The rent can then be distributed to different owners through the native token. And with companies like Samsung, Facebook, and Amazon investing in the metaverse, this could open a new opportunity for landholders.
Yeah, the model definitely works for metaverse properties and metaverse real estate as well. There's a lot of similarities between real estate in the metaverse and real estate in the real world. It's very expensive. It can be difficult for the average investor to get involved with, and it can generate passive yields. So the Landshare model definitely would apply seamlessly to metaverse real estate as well. As of right now, I think the metaverse concept needs to mature and settle a little bit. Right now, it's hard to say which of the projects will come out on top, and when the dust all settles, which metaverse projects will still have a lot of value in them. Because we know when a new technology comes out, there's a lot of different projects that try to capitalize on it, and only a handful of those actually make it out on the other side. So before we get too deep into metaverse, we want to let the whole hype and we want to make sure that the projects that we're investing in are good for the long term. And so it's definitely something that we want to do, and it's something that we're actively looking at. And the concept definitely works, but I think that in order to reduce investor risk, we need to wait for the metaverse to mature a little bit before we start offering, for example, a tokenized or fractional metaverse real estate.
Right, yeah, and you said it, that the metaverse has had a lot of hype around it lately, and we just kind of need to see where the dust is going to settle. And something else that has had a lot of media attention lately is regulations, licensing, and kind of the uncertainty that we see in certain countries regarding crypto. And that ties into our next question here. Crypto projects were closed in many countries due to improper regulation and licenses. How does Landshare solve these problems?
So we have an extra level of scrutiny because we're offering security tokens. And so we have to make sure that we're compliant with the laws of every single country that we offer our asset tokens in. We don't offer to countries that have restrictions on crypto. For example, China or even the United States, we can't offer our tokenized assets. And it would, as nice as it would be to be able to sell to U.S. investors or Chinese investors, compliance is the number one thing for us, because if we're not compliant, then we have no future. It's only a matter of time before regulators start going after projects that are not legally compliant. And so with Landshare, we spent a lot of time and done a lot of due diligence, making sure that our offerings are compliant, making sure that our utility token is compliant. And I think that our partners and our legal partners that we've worked with have done a great job guiding us in the right direction, making sure we have the correct paperwork, making sure that we're offering to the right countries. And I think this is going to be a bigger issue over time. I think more and more countries are going to start putting additional regulations on crypto. So I think it's really important that when people look at projects to invest in, they look at projects that are concerned about legal compliance.
Right, definitely agree with you on the aspects that you stated there, especially with our legal team helping us out with all the paperwork, getting everything filed so everything's above water there. And kind of speaking about paperwork, that ties into our next question, which is Landshare's mission is to avoid the use of middlemen, paper-backed transactions, and slow-moving deals, among other problems. Part of these problems come from human everyday labor, and how is Landshare going to automize the real estate process?
So blockchain technology, I think one of the biggest benefits of the technology as a whole, whether it's being used as for payment processing or for real estate, is that it automates a lot of this stuff and it creates this digital ledger of all the transactions. And we see that cryptocurrencies, we can send money across the world in a matter of seconds. With blockchain real estate, you can buy or sell real estate anywhere in the world in a matter of seconds as well. And you don't have to worry about us approving transactions or filing this or filing that. It all goes through the blockchain. Once you complete the initial KYC paperwork process that we have to do, and you receive your tokens, they're yours. They can be bought or sold to any other qualified investor, and we're not acting as a middleman in that regard. So I think that's one of the biggest advantages to tokenized assets. And with regards to rental payments and dividend payments, we can airdrop them directly to your wallet each month. So with REITs or other kind of more traditional investments, you're going to be like waiting for a check in the mail or waiting for a bank deposit each quarter. But with Landshare, we can send out the tokens instantaneously each month. As soon as we receive the rental check from the tenant, we can send out the rental yields to the investors. So we're eliminating a lot of the kind of, overhead with regards to transactions and rental distributions. And that's one of the biggest advantages of asset tokenization.
Right, well said. And I think that the blockchain technology simplifying and automating the process is something that we're going to see a lot more in the future across all industries, because I think it's safe to say that there's nobody out there that likes paper-backed transactions and all the paperwork filings that come with a lot of traditional finance. And so with that being said, that is going to be our last question for this episode of the Q&A series that we'll be doing on the Landshare channel. If your question didn't get answered this time, don't worry, we have it still in our database, and we'll make sure to try and address all the community questions going forward in future series. And in the meantime, just make sure to follow us on our socials. Our Twitter and Medium are going to be linked in the description below, as well as our Telegram channel. So if you have any questions that are immediate that you would like to be answered as soon as possible, make sure you hop into our Telegram chat, and either myself, Jordan, or one of our community ambassadors will be able to help you get those answers. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.